Research and advocacy are important elements of working for a just Tasmania. That's why in the 1990s, Anglicare Tasmania set up the Social Action and Research Centre, or SARC as it's commonly known. From the start, SARC researchers set out to listen to Tasmanians' experiences of poverty and disadvantage and point to possible solutions.
And there was almost a complete absence of any kind of services that were run by people who had lived experience of particular problems. So there certainly weren't any organisations run by people with the experience of having had mental illness. And similarly, there weren't organisations, run by people with other kind of social issues that now we'd take for granted that we would need to speak to people with disabilities about their experiences, or we would need to speak to women who've experienced family violence. But there were no mechanisms for that or organisations that were run to do that. So that put a big onus on us, we felt, as an organisation that was working really closely on the ground with people who were disadvantaged, not to help them find their voice or to amplify their voice. They had a voice, but they just had no mechanism for getting their voice out. So that's what we saw SARC as being, a megaphone for people in the Tasmanian community.
SARC shares what it learns with others, especially government. In the early years, this prompted a mixed response.
They were quite puzzled by us, I think, to begin with. So, there was a lot of questioning of our academic rigour and the methods that we were using. But they also couldn't walk away from what we were saying, because the research that we were producing was really strongly grounded in the experiences of the workers who were working in the field in Tasmania. So we were, and I think SARC still is, the only research institution in Tasmania that sits outside the university. So it's deeply embedded in a coal-face, not-for-profit organisation.
A key event was the Freedom Ride in 1999, which saw researchers go out into communities and hear from local people.
So that's why we ended up on a bus travelling around, and we thought that a good thing to do with it was to draw attention to this issue of poverty in Tasmania. So we generated a lot of publicity around the Freedom Ride, and we slept in church halls and that kind of stuff, and would advertise on local radio that we were coming, so we're picking up hitchhikers along the way and dropping them off. So trying to create a bit of momentum around the whole thing, and it worked. We had people coming to the consultations that had heard about us on the radio and that kind of stuff to come and talk about what were the issues that they saw in their communities and what they would like to see done about it.
What SARC heard in those communities set the direction of its work for years to come.
The Freedom Ride resulted in a report called Hearing the Voices, and that set the strategic directions for SARC for at least the next 5 years, because there were so many ideas that came out of that we then had to go and do the work on and write the business cases for.
It also led to the establishment of the No Interest Loan Scheme, giving low-income Tasmanians the opportunity to access a safe, affordable loan.
Social Action Research Centre then wrote a business case for a no-interest loan scheme in Tasmania and came up with this model of how to run it statewide, and then Anglicare auspiced the NILS network of Tasmania and then sent it on its way as an independent organisation. So that was one of our proudest achievements.
Today, SARC continues to advocate for positive change.
So the last few years we've worked in a variety of areas, so meeting the needs of Tasmanian children experiencing homelessness, addressing teenage domestic violence and abuse, a really groundbreaking piece of research, that one. Looking to make public transport fairer for young people and people living with disabilities. We've continued to work in the area of gambling reform, and more recently we've been looking at buy now, pay later products and how they're impacting people, and also looking at reforms that might reduce the harm from illicit drug use. We really look at giving a voice to vulnerable Tasmanians and Tasmanians experiencing disadvantage, and also focusing on areas where we can see that there are changes, that change is really possible. So it's a problem that can be addressed and there's opportunities for impact. It's really inspiring. It's, I think one of the best parts of it is that you're actually in a whole group of people who are doing it together, and that you're actually working with the people that you're seeking to make a difference for.
So what does the future hold for Anglicare's research and advocacy?
SARC has such a reputation. I want to keep building on that. Continue to give a voice to all Tasmanians, to inspire the Tasmanian community to support positive change, and to do really good quality research that's solution focused, that really helps our policymakers to make those changes. And I guess in the long term, I'm looking forward to seeing more Tasmanians live a fulfilling life.